Hey everybody, this is Ramon Ray, founder of Smart Hustle Media. Thanks for joining me for what I think, I know it's going to be another exciting podcast conversation with someone who I met through a mutual friend of ours, Chris Winfield. David, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. Chris Winfield, and he had an event called Unfair Advantage that David and I were at, and other business owners. So David Neagle, great to have you with us today, and thanks for sharing some of your insight with the Smart Hustle audience.
Ramon, it is my pleasure to be here. So happy to do this.
Excellent. Listen, David, I've been to your site, but when I was at Chris's event, Unfair Advantage, every 30 minutes, I think your name was being said in a good way, an honorable way, really, that people appreciate, I think, what you've done for them, your team has done for them. So why don't we just start there, David, if you don't mind. Tell us who you are a bit. I could say it, but I think you're better. What you do for entrepreneurs and why you think people are so impacted by the work you do. Let's start there.
Yeah. So to make a really long story very condensed for the convenience of everybody listening. I was a kid that kind of ended up raising myself on the streets of Chicago. Began to move out of my teen years into being a young adult. Got married, had a couple of children. I had quit high school at 17, had no further education beyond that, and realized I had created a situation in my life where I had way more responsibility than the ability to fulfill that responsibility. And I was pretty horrified by that. I was very disturbed. I was not being the husband or the father or the provider that I wanted to be for my family. And because I didn't have an education, I was pretty much forced to do physical labor. I was driving a forklift and I drove a truck on the weekends. So I was working 6.5 days a week, and I was still not able to make enough money to make ends meet. So I was really focused on how do I get out of this situation. I had a couple of very interesting life-changing experiences. One was I had a near-death experience in 1989, right after my son was born. I got sucked through a dam while I was water skiing on the Illinois River, and I was one of two people that survived. So that experience taught me that if I'm going to change anything, I better do something now.
Wow.
So it gave me more of a sense of urgency in life instead of just procrastinating my way through, always saying it'd be nice to change something, but then nothing ever changes.
David, if I was sucked through a dam, it was one of two people that lived, and it probably was someone close to you or that you knew very well, it would slap me upside the head as well. So we're glad you're here, but I hear you on that.
Yeah, it definitely did. But what surprised me was that nothing changed after that. And I was, after my back healed, because I broke my back, I was back driving a forklift again. And my life was progressively getting worse. I was more and more frustrated. I was more angry. I was not a good employee by any stretch of the imagination. And my logical mind said, to get out of this situation, you need to go back to school. You need to go to university. You need to get a degree. You need to build a career. I didn't have the time or the money to do that. And this is pre-internet, right? So it wasn't even like you get education online at the time.
And isn't it something that kids today, and when I say kids, I say it in a respectful way, not a pejorative way, like, I don't know how to do this. And I'm like, YouTube has 1 million videos about how to play the guitar. I mean, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It is bizarre because I tell people all the time, if I had the internet the way that it is now 20 years ago when I started business, oh my God, it would have been so much easier, But anyway, so I'm very frustrated. I'm working, and one night after a really bad series of days at work and being exhausted, not having much sleep, I just had an emotional meltdown in this trailer, and I was crying, and I was just asking God, like, show me something, give me some direction as to what to do, because I was clueless. And the other adults that I would ask, I would sincerely ask for help. Like it even kind of chokes me up when I think about this, because I really wanted somebody to help me.
Yes.
And I would do anything that somebody would show me how to do. But their answer would be, you shouldn't have quit high school to begin with. And it's like, thanks a lot. Like I've figured that much out so far. What do I do now? Right. And their answer was just do the best you can where you are, stay working on a forklift. Nobody had any other vision for me. And I knew that isn't where I was supposed to be. So this little voice in my head said, change your attitude. And I thought, okay, what exactly does that mean and how do I do it? So what I did was I took a person the man who owned the company that I worked for. It was a food distribution company just outside of Chicago. And I said, what is the difference in his general attitude between him and me?
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I recognized. He loved what he did. He did every job to the best of his ability, and he treated everybody with total respect. Those were the three things that I noticed the most. So I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
I'm going to act like I love what I do every day. I'm going to come to work with a great attitude. I'm going to do every job to the best of my ability, which is something that I had not done before. So I had to learn how to do that. And I was going to treat every person with total respect and quit being such a jerk to people, because I really was. And it was because I was angry at myself, right?
And I'm curious, Dave, I don't want to take you too far off your train of thought, so I'll try to bring you back. But I'm curious, at that age, at that stage, what do you think, why do you think you were, I hate to use the word lucky, blessed, lucky enough to get that voice, to have that internal, like it's kind of like you had a spare battery, you had a small flame still within you, it's my words, I didn't, if that makes sense. Well, other people don't. I have family members, David, they're just jacked up, dude. They got me. I can't help them. And I'm sure you know others. And yeah, just curious, any thoughts, like the difference between David, and I hear a few other stories of people that were not doing well, but they had something that was ticking that helped them. I'm just curious, because you could have been a statistic. You could have been not here today.
I can tell you exactly what it is. And this is not to sound crass or cold. It's, do you want it bad enough?
Okay.
I wanted to change more than anything else in my life, and I was willing to do whatever it took to do it. I hear a lot of people say they want to change, but deep down inside, they don't really want to. They want to stay in a victim mode and complain about their life.
Yes.
And the thing is that I won't tell the story today because it's quite a long story, but that actually,
we have to have you again, or I have to come to one of your events.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a man say that to me one time when I was actually starting to become successful, but I got stuck. And I went to him and said, why am I stuck? And he said, you don't want it bad enough. And he turned around and walked away. And I was so angry that he said that. But then on my way home from that event, I started thinking, what if he's right? And it turned out he was. And it was causing me to stop in every place that I was afraid or didn't think that I could move forward. So I think that the answer is there for every person. I don't think that spirit, God, or whatever it is that you believe about a higher power or intelligence keeps anything from anyone. We have the ability to choose. And if we want it,
and God says that too, by the way, which I'm a person of faith, so he says you have to make the choice. But I don't want to take you off your story, David. Did I do that? Because I want to make sure you go back. You thought how the guy could be different, so don't let me take you off track of that. Go ahead.
So anyway, I made this change in my attitude, and in 30 days, my income tripled. It went from $20,000 a year to $62,000 a year. Now, here's the significance around this. I had never made any more money than that in my life. I was stuck at that number for 2 years, and I tried everything that I could, including working myself to death almost, in order to try to break through that, and nothing changed. I changed 3 things in the way that I'm thinking and behaving, and my income changes almost instantly. That what happened to me then was it fired up my curiosity and my hope. Like, if this could happen because I made those 3 changes, and I was not 100% sure that that's what caused it, what would happen if I actually learned what I was doing? So now
you had the system behind it, not just, it's like the guy who's exercising. He knows he shouldn't eat Snicker bars, but nobody's told him yet, here's what you do. I get it.
Yeah. When I met my mentors many years later, he said that what happened was I became an unconscious competent. I started doing the right things. I just didn't know what they were. So that caused me to want to start studying. And I started off by going to the library and picking up books, biographies. One thing led to another. I met people. I heard about different books. I started reading, going to seminars, going to lectures, everything that I could possibly do. And slowly but surely, I started to put the pieces together as to what happened. And then other people were seeing that my life just kept getting better and better and better. I mean, I switched companies, went to another company, drove a truck that paid a lot more than where I was.
And isn't it amazing? You still drove the truck at this point.
Yep.
But you got more pay.
Triple the pay.
Hello?
Triple the pay. Yep, absolutely. And here's the thing I didn't even know about the other company is the other company showed up as something I didn't want anything to do with because it was driving a fuel truck.
Right.
Okay. So there's a whole nother story behind that too. But then within a period of, so I drove that truck for about 3 years, moved into management. a few years after that, I was in charge of expanding that company across the country. And I didn't go back and get any other education. So I think I had a basic management course that they required me to take because I didn't have any other, one of those things that you take for like $149 Holiday Inn. You know?
It's more so for you can get the paper and the company has a business.
Yeah, exactly. So I started helping other people and they were getting results, but here was the thing. They were getting results really fast, just like I did. Now, I didn't know this wasn't normal, okay? Right. So I started, I was working with my mentor at the time, who was Bob Proctor. My life would not be the same without that man, just a shout out to him. And he was astounded by the results that I was getting and how fast I was getting them. And we had a lot in common as far as both of our awakenings in life led us down that road. So then I started my business and I became known for someone who could actually show a person how to get their company over 7 or 8 figures in a very short period of time with a solid structure that they could actually scale. And they were doing it one after the other, after the other, after the other. And so, it's completely evolved. That was 20 years ago. Sure. But basically, the essence of it is the same, that what I really do with people is make them really aware of their potential so that they can use it and step into it, and then give them the solid business structure and techniques to be able to go out there and build the business that they want.
Wow. So indeed, what I'm hearing, David, indeed, and thank you for leading into that, there are 2 parts to this. One is the mindset and other things that you probably get people through, which I'm guessing, but you tell me it could be the harder side of things. But even if they have the right mindset, if they're making it up, not paying their taxes or hiring wrong or, have the wrong product, the wrong sales strategy, their business probably is not going to grow still. They'll be a good person.
That's right.
But their business is still going to be jacked up. Is that fair to say?
That's right. The mindset is the hardest piece.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked with people where they have companies that are making tens of millions of dollars and they get stuck. And they don't know why they get stuck. And I work with them for a day or so and figure out what's going on in their head, and we fix that. And boom, their income, their company just takes off. I had one guy who was in land development, right? And he was probably doing about $2 or $3 million a year on a regular basis, and he had for a long period of time. He started working with, it was with China. He was working with the Chinese businessmen that were coming over that wanted to do land acquisitions. And he was having the most difficult time working with these individuals and couldn't sell anything. And this had been like his 3rd year, and he was tanking. And I worked with him for 6 months, and the first deal he did was $200 million. He made $200 million on the deal.
And so why don't we break through some of that, break down some of that as much as we can? And I'm sure there's a lot of case studies here, but so we can learn, A, what changed with him, and or David, if you had to think, Ramon, here's the 3 things that I have to help people change. What is that? What happened? Maybe can you break down that story a bit more? What did you have to break him through? What was he doing wrong so we can learn?
Well, so the idea is that our belief system, or a paradigm, which is a cluster of belief systems and habits, it controls our thinking, it controls our logic, it controls how we problem solve, it controls how we look at what's possible or not possible, it controls our choices in life, and it controls our behavior. And it's just because we think a certain way and we believe something doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. So, but what is frightening about it for most of the world is that even though it may not be based in like a universal truth, it's still the reality that they're living in. So you could tell a person, hey, you got the potential, man, to be a millionaire all day long. But they're like, listen, I'm on food stamps, dude. That's their reality. They're not going to be able to accept that information. So you have to slowly change their belief system to where they can start to experience something different in their life. So it's like the light bulb goes on and they go, oh, wait a minute. If I can do that, could I really go further? Right? So I've literally taken some people from being homeless to being millionaires. And I've taken people that are multimillionaires and helped them move their company, the needle way up in them. But it's all the same thing with their belief system. So like with this gentleman that was doing land acquisition, this is so fascinating. So when you're dealing with Asian dialect, right, it is, we are, first of all, when we start to learn linguistically, the first thing we learn is not the language itself, but tonally. So we learn the tone of our parents' voice and what that means. Is it loving? Is it angry? Is it nervous? Is it worried? So we learn tonally first. And when you're basically speaking English, or you're speaking, say, French, or you're speaking German or whatever, the tones don't change that much based on the emotion that's going on with a person. Not so with Asian.
Interesting.
Not so with their languages. So when he would be dealing with these people, and they would be using the different dialect and inflection in the way that they were communicating, he was interpreting it as being angry.
And guess what, David? Many of us Americans do. I happen to grew up in the hood, Chinese restaurants. I know you're right, but as you're saying that, I'm like, he's right. Because we as kids, I'm sorry to my Chinese friends, we'd kind of giggle a little bit thinking, I'm not going to mimic it here, but it does sound a bit harsh. Like, is that mother screaming at her kid or saying, you can go outside and play? But you're right. It's a very harsh, as it were, those are my words, type of.
Yeah. So he would be literally in these board meetings, and they would start talking the way that they talk, and it was triggering a wound from his father. So instead of being a powerful businessman that was in command of a meeting, he would literally turn inward like a scared little boy.
Which turned them off, probably.
Which turned them off completely. Completely. And of course, the Chinese do business in a lot of ways very different. They're very particular. Like, they go through every little fine-tooth thing. They want to know all the details. So now it was like, not only are they coming he's perceiving this fatherly authority, but then they're looking at everything, and he's like, they're looking for what's wrong, all the mistakes that I've actually made. He completely would become disempowered. So I worked with him on the issues and beliefs that he had around his dad. I got him to take his power back from his father. So, psychologically, emotionally, he did that. And then I had him practice working with, like, I would actually mimic being somebody of authority speaking with an angry voice, and have him stand in his power with me and be able to be cool and calm and conduct the interview. The second he did that, he made the sale.
Wow. And so what I'm hearing, David, I wish we could talk for 6 hours, is that taking this one example, is that going back to the mindset side, you didn't talk about profit and loss, sales tactics, marketing, which is important. None of that. And I'm assuming if we could extrapolate this to so many other scenarios that you help people with, what I'm hearing, people who want to change their mindset, let's say they're not working with David, but they're listening to this, you're trying to help them figure out, what am I doing wrong just as a human? How's my heart feel? And my mind is in a clunky way of what I'm hearing you say and what you do for many other people. Does that sound about right? Kind of just,
it's very right. And it's also a little different. So I work with everybody different. I find out where the problem is, and then I look at what is the real cause of this problem. Sometimes it is a sales skill, and I have to teach them a sales skill. Sometimes it's a marketing skill, and we have to run them through our marketing team so that they learn how to do that. But very often, if they've already been successful to some degree, some switch is flipped in their mind and they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And part of the problem, because I don't want anybody to look at this and be like they start blaming themselves, your subconscious mind is designed not to change those things. Subconscious mind is control, or the amygdala is control, basically has two functions, and that's to keep us alive in the immediate and reproduction. That's it. Those are the only two functions. So as long as what's happening in our life is not killing us now, even though it might kill us 20 years from now, your subconscious mind says, stay what it is, because that's what I know how to deal with. I have the beliefs, values, the patterns, the roles in order to be able to deal with that in real life. When we start talking about making a change or setting a goal that we haven't achieved, there's an unknown factor to that. The subconscious mind goes, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's safe or not. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to engage your strategy, because everybody has a unique strategy to stop.
Right.
And the way that it happens is it causes our brain, our conscious mind, to start focusing on something in our life that we deem more important than the new set pattern of behaviors for the goal that we go after. And it gets us to consciously agree that it's more important to do this than it is to do that. And that's the only reason that we stop. That's the only reason we have a hard time breaking habits.
Yeah.
Of any kind.
Yeah, I know, David, what you're going through is very individualized and it's up to the person, but any gems you can give us, David, 2 or 3 things that we should think about. And by the way, your website, davidneagle.com, is amazing treasure trove. I know you have downloads and all kind of juicy information people should look at, and we'll have that in the show notes and lower thirds here. But any 2 or 3 things, broad level, that people listening should think about for themselves, should start writing down or self-reflect? Any guidance you can give them just at a very generic level?
Yeah, absolutely. Come here, bud.
Hey, what's the dog's name?
Studio with me. His name is Ferguson. Here, I'll show you.
Hey, Ferguson. Oh, cute dog.
He's my little Westie. So look at that. We're on a podcast.
Smile at the screen, David. Let's take a picture of you and Ferguson. Smile at the screen. I like this. Hey, Ferguson. Okay, we're good.
All right, cool. So so here's the thing. Number one, our greatest power is our ability to choose. It's what makes us godlike. It says we're created in the image of, right? So if we look at what is the power that we have 2 powers that give us that image. That is the ability to use our imagination.
Okay.
So we can download information from the universe and we can bring it into order. We can take chaos and make it into order. And then we choose to focus on that image and nothing else. And when we do that, we literally take something from not nothing, but in its etheric state or in its energetic state or in its just pure knowledge state. And that's how we move something from there to the physical. So that is called the perpetual law of transmutation of energy. Everything is always moving from a non-physical to a physical and back to a non-physical again. That's how all life transitions this way. But all knowledge transitions this way. So when you think about the phone, the knowledge for this smartphone was around when we lived in caves, right? We just weren't aware of it. Success is nothing more than about awareness. We're born to be a success.
Absolutely.
Absolutely born to be a success. We're the only form of life on the planet that does not fulfill its purpose. Every other form of life, as long as human beings don't get involved, fulfill their purpose and they become the best squirrel or oak tree or water buffalo that they're supposed to be. But because human beings have the ability to choose, we have the ability to take in information that's not true, make it our reality, the place that we make decisions from, and then pass it on from one generation to the other. We call that ignorance.
And that generational thing that's a whole other topic, but so powerful.
It is.
So powerful.
It is. So what I would ask a person is, what do you want? It doesn't have to be grand. Start where you are. Pick something that you know that you want. Get very clear on what that is. And then make a decision that you won't back away from to begin to go after it. And the other thing is get a mentor, right?
Yes,
we talked about that before the show. My income was stagnant for 7 years until I started working with my mentor. And then it went from $50,000 a year to $50,000 a month. And then it took it over $1 million. But it was because I was working with a mentor.
Yeah.
That allowed that to happen. And
who helped you with your mind and your business, the 2 sides of.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because but the thing is that when you get a mentor, listen to what they say. Yes. My mentor said to me this, I can't coach you your way.
Right.
Because your way gets your results. And if I do that, then I become your assistant in failure. So you have to do what I tell you to do. So to pick a mentor, you really want to find someone who's miles ahead of you. Somebody that is already proven by results that they've done it. Not just that they say that they have, or they got a great marketing page that shows that they have, or they're standing next to a private jet. Find somebody who's got the result.
Do people do that, David? Really?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we live in the land of fake entrepreneurs.
Boy.
So you want to find somebody that's got a good track record, and then approach them from the aspect of how you can be a benefit to them.
Yeah.
Right. Always think. I programmed this in my mind 25 years ago, and it's the way that I wake up every day. I think about every person that I'm going to meet today. How can I help them? How can I be a benefit to them in some way? And then God or the universe sends that back to me. That's the law. You give in order to receive. So people need to stop thinking about getting, and they need to think about getting and develop them, or think about giving and develop themselves to a state where they have something of real value to actually give to their brother and their sister.
No, David, that is so powerful. And I think you're so true. I think if people had a more, how can I give? And I would want to add, though, also, don't be afraid to invest. I know for me, I have friends and others, you get to know. But listen, I know you have programs, David, and others. Invest in it, especially as you said, if they're good and you find somebody it can change your business. So spending whatever it is to make more money and live a better life. Forget the money right now. Just live a better life.
Spending money on the right mentor is better than any money you'll spend for a college education.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because they're living in the real world. They've done it, right? They're not taking theoretical ideas that haven't not necessarily been applied or 50 years old. They're living in today's world. They've done it.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's cool.
Listen, David, this has been a great discussion, man. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see it in the lower thirds in the article and the blog post we're going to write about this. But definitely, as you're listening to this, feel free. I'll give you permission. Tab over. Usually I don't, David. Tab over to David's website, davidneagle.com. By the way, it's very well designed. I love it. It has a lot of nice little nuggets to download. But David, thanks for spending time with the Smart Hustle audience.
You're welcome. And they can also check out my podcast, the Successful Mind Podcast on iTunes.
The Successful Mind Podcast. Okay.
Yeah, they get a lot of free information there. It's really great.
Love it.